The analog writers guidelines by Stan Schmidt say that they want hard science fiction. That means science fiction in which science or technology, and it can be any science, but science or technology is an integral part of the story, such that if that particular science or technology wasn't in the story couldn't exist.
Yeah. That makes sense. Sometimes it's said that the science is actually a character. That the science, science fiction is a story where the science plays the part of a major character.
Anybody ever read Dragon's Egg by Robert Ford? It's in one way, fantastic book. And Ford was a professional physicist himself. Dragon's Egg. It's a space expedition from Earth finds life on a neutron star. And given the incredible density of the neutron star, this life forms are, well, physically they're flat, almost two-dimensional because of the enormous gravity, the intense gravity. And the vocabulary may have escaped me, but instead of standard chemical reactions, these life forms exist because of, I want to say, nucleonic reactions. Instead of chemistry that works at our speed, it works like a million times faster. 2 hours while this spaceship from Earth is there. The neutron star, civilization goes from the Stone Age to the Star Age, interacting with the spaceship from Earth. Of that book, I would say, the characters, whether human or neutron, are flat. And I don't just mean physically flat, I mean, we're talking flat here. And yet, the scientific vision was, you could say, one of the most compelling characters or characterizations I've ever seen in my life. It's like the civilization that went, and the interaction with Earth civilization, incredibly three-dimensional. Characters, I don't even remember anybody's name. But recommend it anyway.
Well, yeah, I mean, different subgenres of science fiction are played at different. You're required to have a certain degree of rigor in your fiction. I mean, my personal prejudice is I try to be hard sciencey to a very large extent, but we're all making stuff up, and there's a lot of stuff that's grandfathered in as hard science fiction. There's even faster light travel and all sorts of some of the more speculative nanotechnology stuff. It's pushing the limits of what's thermodynamically possible. But, some of the stuff is just, your tropes can be fantastical if you're willing to be rigorous with them. I mean, because something feels scientific if you can reproduce it, if it follows the same rules each time. If you have some buttons and some shiny metal, that helps it. But, so a combination, but keeping the rules rigorous is the most important thing. You can write faster than light travel and everything, time travel, whatever you want, but if just keep it right, that's because we're all making this up. No matter what anyone says.
I think in this case you're talking about your own personal rule set.
Right.
So as a writer, you don't contradict yourself and make yourself look stupid.
Right. Yeah. Or in the course of a story.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Have you been starting to look at steampunk? Speaking of this,
I love the hell out of steampunk. I'm totally in favor of going this direction.
the latest subgenre of science fiction fantasy is steampunk, which is kind of sort of more or less science fiction, Victorian science fiction. So I mean, the anachronism quotient goes hyperbolic. But with your background,
What is
in
some
Victorian
examples of
Neil
steampunk?
Stephenson?
Huh?
Neil Stephenson?
Neil Stevenson, that's the
Oh,
steampunk.
Okay.
Essentially, if you picture a steam-powered car or airships and this sort of idea, it's the kind of H.G. Wells, like Jules Verne almost sort of science fiction.
Philip Pullman might be.
Yeah, a little bit. And I think, was it Neuromancer that a lot of people talk about being one of the... Not Neuromancer.
wait.
Cyberpunk.
Yeah. Cyberpunk is Neuromancer. That's sort of,
Yeah.
The difference engine? Is that what it is?
Yeah, it's a difference
Yeah.
engine. And
I think after the panel, there might be a reading list get sent out. With all this kind of stuff we've been talking about.
I've started to study steampunk a little bit, and it's not just things that clank in the night, although it is, but it's like the Victorian mountains included the sense of a limitless world to go explore, machines that you could understand, not light bulbs, machines you could understand and fix if the need be. It can get kind of gritty and urban and coaly, sooty, but it can also have this sense of an era where anyone could be an explorer, anyone could learn about a new kind of machine and make it. Steam engines.
It's true, there's a very explorer kind of vibe to it. That
Yeah.
It's about kind of that age where people were seeing new things, going to new places.
And somebody with some real background in the Victorian age is like, worth its weight in gold.
Yes.
If I had read it.
Yeah, it's
Well,
fun
it seems like that there's definitely some element. I mean, one of my favorite novels is The Diamond Age.
Yes, exactly. Diamond Age is
There's
one
some of that
vibe
in The
to it.
Diamond Age.
Yes.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly. The kind of the neo-Victorian age and
Yeah.
combining sort of the Victorian aesthetic with high technology. Kind of. A lot of steampunk is set in the first Victorian age, and not Diamond Age is set in the second Victorian age. But a lot of the aesthetic is still there. It's a similar kind of vibe to it. Steampunk is awesome. But I think we've got off track. I think the audience might not be completely following us on our little digression.
The takeaway lesson is science fiction and fantasy. Not only do they overlap. You could probably find 6 or 8 loci of overlap. And then, even if you want to be somewhat rigorous and call it science fiction, a lot of subgenres and flavors: cyberpunk, steampunk, new age, golden age. And academically speaking, lit-crit speaking, you can posit that science fiction is a subset of the ancient genre of fantasy.
Yeah, the overlap is sort of fuzzy around the edges.
Oh yeah, there's science fiction, science fantasy, and people, indescribable people doing something really interesting somewhere in there.
It would all just be termed romance. It would kind of be the overarching term.
Yeah.
It would be romance.
In other words, it's not the same, not the simplistic sense of people falling in love.
No.
Nature, history, wonder,
Yes.
adventure.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, adventure, wonder.
A lot of science fiction readers, and certainly writers, find. I don't want to be insulting about it, but a lot of us find some of the more literary fiction of the 20th and 21st century to be like way too navel-gazing and boring, and beautifully written stuff about things that mean very little. The history of science fiction has been, in some cases, fairly poorly written stories about stuff that's incredible, monumental, profound, existential, and even religious. So when the science fiction writers pull their craft up, and the more literary people expand their horizons, everyone, especially readers, are more happy.
Yes, some science fiction writers even object to the term science fiction. They say, well, this isn't science, this is just fiction.
Okay, yeah.
There's really, the distinction there puts science fiction as the stepchild. It's considered a negative term. But they say, well, what are the other terms for science fiction? Speculative fiction, extrapolative fiction, imaginary fiction. That's just fiction.
Yeah.
All fiction is that way. So, but yeah, you're exactly right, and it's